listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting us share part of your day. My name is Jerry Mitchell. Sitting next to me is the purple Myra today,
Good morning, everyone.
wearing the purple turtleneck like it's cold outside. Not as cold as it was the other day, but it's chilly. Where we are, we did not get the snow, so we're kind of thankful for that in a way. I know that the granddaughters are probably a little upset that we didn't get it, but you know, they're off school today anyway. It's a holiday, so it wouldn't have done a whole lot of good. There's a lot of stuff going on that you need to know about today. Something I came across about half an hour ago. This was written by David Sidman from Israel 365 News earlier today. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi militia on Monday said that it launched a drone attack in United Arab Emirates after the UAE authorities reported 2 fires in the nation's capital of Abu Dhabi that may have been carried out by drones. The Abu Dhabi police released a statement on its government-run news agency, the WAM, which reported explosions on 3 oil tankers in the industrial Musafa zone adjacent to the storage facilities of Abu Dhabi government-owned oil firm ADNOC. Fires were also reported at a construction site at the Abu Dhabi International Airport. Initial investigations found part of a small plane that could possibly be a drone at both sites that could have caused the explosions and the fire, the police said in their statement. Now, if you look at the Khaleej Times, I believe that's how you say it, Khaleej Times, from the United Arab Emirates, they do have a story that more or less suppresses the Iranian connection to the explosions, but they really bring out their concern that they're contacting the Indian and Pakistani consulates and working with them because there were foreign nationals working in those places. We need to look at this, and we're going to continue to be watching this for a few reasons. One is this is one of those cases where basically, to put it very bluntly, Arabs are attacking Arabs. However, if you know anything about that region, you realize that it goes much deeper than that. We can't lump them all into that very general stereotype. This is something that's going to see. You know, it may play out in prophecy. We don't know yet, but it may. We'll look at that. So as we're looking at those things, just bear in mind that these things are going on in the world, along with other things. The Omicron variant is still wreaking havoc everywhere. Where we live, the mask mandates are back in place. You know, you dare not go out without one, or you go back and get it because people look at you funny. Although, to be quite honest with you, someone riding a motorcycle with a full helmet on and a mask under it is just foolish, in my opinion. and I think I have may have some other people who believe that as well. Good news, though, today I received an email that the publisher for my next book is going to actually be willing to edit it. There was some question last week about them having the capability and therefore the desire to edit a book which contains Greek and Hebrew in it as well. So we're another step closer to getting that out there and being ready for distribution. Hopefully, I'm still hoping, I know this is putting it out there pretty close, but I'm still hoping for February. So we're looking that way anyway. Don't forget, you can go to givegod90.com and find out all kinds of good stuff there. The other 2 books are still available wherever fine books are sold, but do yourself a favor and visit your local bookstore because they need your business too. Now, if you happen to be one of those kinds of people that don't like to wear a mask and you have to do that, call them. They'll still get it for you. You can do that over the phone. It's okay. What we're looking at today is kind of a odd situation because some people, and there's not a lot of them, some people really think that they're more important than others. But really, the majority of people, thankfully, are humble enough to wonder, do I really make a difference in the world? And we can look around and say, well, what that person does is really important or seems really important. What that person does, it seems really important. But is there a most important job in the world? Have you ever thought about that? What's really amazing is that the primary occupation just after creation was to grow food. For a very long time, everything centered around that. Metal workers made more farming implements than they made war implements. That might sound surprising to some people, knowing, because think about this. What makes a better movie? Okay, do we make better movies about people fighting with swords and shields, or do we make better movies about farmers growing tomatoes? Who would watch a movie about a tomato that is growing? Just saying, it's much more interesting to watch people fighting than it is to watch a tomato plant growing. I'll go along with that. People who wove cloth and others who worked in either wool or vegetable fibers were primarily focused on maintaining cloth for food production. Baskets for winnowing. Some grains were small enough they actually used cloth for winnowing. As more people filled the earth and support jobs began to appear other than just what you might think that is directly connected with agriculture. The people who mined the ore to make the metals, that were necessary for the implements, were directly connected to agriculture. The people who extracted the oil from the plants for either food or medicinal purposes, directly connected to agriculture. Some worked directly with production agriculture. Some worked to distribute the products. And eventually, traders began distributing food to places further and further away from the source of production. That actually made it possible for more and more people to live in an urban environment. But every job in mankind in an early civilization involves some aspect of making certain that food was available. Later, civilizations increased and the need for social order increased. More formalized governments were introduced instead of just tribal hierarchies. The need for more formal leaders and diplomats became an important part of the way cultures interacted. And the strange thing is that often the need for diplomacy and even for war surrounded the need to feed your culture. Leaders had to feed their societies. Without food, culture can't exist. Doesn't matter where in history you look, if people didn't eat, they didn't live, right? So let's fast forward today. Is there anyone alive in our world today who doesn't eat? Well, of course not. Everybody needs to eat. So even though you may not have a job that is directly related to agriculture, it is a very important part of your life. We like to refer to the ancient people as living as a mainly agriculture or agrarian-based society, but nothing has really changed. Today, without the people who grow food, we can't exist. Without the people who support that vocation, that occupation, mankind will starve. Look at the people who support agriculture today, from the farmers and the hired hands that work directly in production, whether it's the ones who produce the produce or the ones who feed the livestock. There are people who make the packaging available for the food, right? They have to make the paper products and the plastic products that the food is shipped in, which brings up the truck drivers. Don't forget the miners again, who mine the materials that build the trucks, the ships, and the trains and the planes that carry the stuff. The list doesn't stop there either. There are people who drill for the oil that fuel the trucks, the ships, the planes, the trains, and everything else. The people who refine the oil, for fuel. The workers who actually build the trucks, the ships, the planes, and all that stuff. Whatever your food travels on or in, somebody had to produce it. Somebody had to make it. Now think about this. The people who clean the produce houses, the processing plants. There are people who finance the farmers and the factory owners, not to mention the mine owners, the oil drillers. The banks play an important role in this. Even the doctors who help maintain a healthy workforce. Well, they used to anyway. That's another story. We're not going down that road today. All of these things, think about the nurses, the housekeeping folks. All of those buildings need to be maintained by people who know how to work on the heat and air circulating mechanisms that keep things warm or cool. They have to, the water has to be supplied. All of those things come into it. And it's all because you need to be able to eat. And I've not even mentioned, and I hate to mention this part, but this is terrible. It's going to sound like I hate lawyers. Even the lawyers, who act as our kind of modern day diplomats, right? They write the contracts between businesses so that people can maintain a peaceful work structure. All the staff that supports them. What about your own situation? What job do you have right now? Why do you have it? Why do you get out of bed every day and go to work? What's your most basic necessity? Is supplying for yourself and your family what drives you to get out of bed every day? To fulfill your place in this massive supply chain that feeds the world? Maybe it should be. Because in today's world, we're actually more interdependent than ever before. Less than 2% of the population feed 90%, or the other 98%. Approximately 2% of the people today are involved directly. When I say directly, I mean actually working on the farms, on the ranches. Everybody else, it's their job to either be part of the supply chain in some way, whether you're just standing there watching the plastic cups roll by that something's going to be put in later, whether you're the one who's drilling for the oil that's going to eventually be refined into fuel to carry this stuff. But in some way, you are more interconnected than you have ever been. Whether you might be a cafeteria worker in a school. You might be a chef at a fancy restaurant. You whatever it might be. But there is something that has interrupted our way of understanding that we must work if we want to eat. Here's where things get interesting. Let's look at this lesson from Genesis chapter 3, verses 6 through 19.
The woman saw that the tree was beautiful. She saw that its fruit was good to eat and that it would make her wise. So she took some of its fruit and ate it. She also gave some fruit to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then it was as if the man's and woman's eyes were open. They realized they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made something to cover themselves. Then they heard the Lord God walking in the garden. It was during the cool part of the day, and the man and his wife hid from the Lord God among the trees in the garden. But the Lord God called to the man. The Lord said, "Where are you?" The man answered, "I heard you walking in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God said to the man, "Who told you you were naked? Did you eat from that tree? I commanded you not to eat from that tree." The man said, "You gave this woman to me. She gave me the fruit from the tree, so I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What have you done?" She answered, "The snake tricked me, so I ate the fruit." The Lord God said to the snake, "Because you did this, a curse will be put on you. You will be cursed more than any tame animal or wild animal. You will crawl on your stomach. You will eat dust all the days of your life. I will make you and the woman enemies of each other. Your descendants and her descendants will be enemies. Her child will crush your head, and you will bite his heel." Then God said to the woman, "I will cause you to have much trouble when you are pregnant, and when you give birth to children, and you will have great pain. You will greatly desire your husband, but he will rule over you." Then God said to the man, "You listened to what your wife said, and you ate the fruit of the tree that I commanded you not to eat from. So I will put a curse on the ground. You will have to work very hard for food. In pain you will eat this food all the days of your life. The ground will produce thorns and weeds for you, and you will eat the plant of the field. You will sweat and work hard for your food. Later you will return to the ground. This is because you were taken from the ground. You are dust, and when you die, you will return to the dust."
Now, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in here, but we're going to concentrate on just a couple things. We need to remember that prior to this, food was readily available. The only thing they weren't allowed to eat was the fruit from one particular tree. Now, we have to work for our food. We have to remember that part of this lesson is we must know what it's like to want. We need to know what it's like to be hungry. We need to know what it's like to desire something. We need to understand what it is to want to achieve something. And one of the best teachers is hunger. Each of us has to do his or her own share. You might not think you're involved in agriculture or that in our modern society, we're not an agrarian society, but we are. If you eat, you are involved in agriculture. Everything we do to be productive, we do simply because there is in each of us a desire to eat. Now that might sound funny, right? Some of us like to eat more than others. I am proof that some of us eat to live, others live to eat. Some days I think I live to eat because I like good food. But that's a different story too. Unfortunately, there has been a growing feeling in the world today is that some of us have chosen to live off of the generosity of others. They don't think that they have to do anything. They believe they can exist without being productive, and that is not living. If you exist without being productive, you're more of a leech on society, a parasite that sucks the life out of its host. Now, while we know today that there are parasites like leeches that have a place, we need to use them wisely for them to be beneficial. Continuing to feed a parasite only weakens the host. Believers who are to be charitable, yes. We are to care for those who are not able to care for themselves. But we also need to be wise and not allow those who are able to be productive to drain from the host of society, especially if they're going to drain it to the point where the host dies. It's not humane to keep someone in a position of need simply to make the one who's being charitable feel better about themselves. Now, there's always going to be someone who needs some assistance. You don't need to keep the same people in the same situation so that you can boast about helping them. That doesn't help anyone. It depletes humanity. Each and every one who hears this message is far more important than they have led themselves to believe they are. You are an important part of culture. You have a role in society. You are needed to be doing the work your Creator designed you to do. I know it's difficult for some of you to think, well, here I go picking on the lawyers and politicians again. I know it's difficult to think that a politician is important, but they really are. They have a responsibility of maintaining the diplomatic peace that is more fragile right now than it has ever been. In the United States, we have an election this year for all of our Congress and a third of our Senate. That's on a federal level. Different states do things different ways. Other nations will be holding elections. But we need to keep in mind that when we vote for these people, those of us who have the opportunity to vote for our leaders and our representatives, they need to understand what their occupation and responsibilities are. They might say all the right things, right? They might say something that sounds really good, but you're going to know who they are by what they've done in the past. You're going to be able to see how important they really are by the things they've already done. You're going to know if they are going to continue in the future. It's something that we need to learn in the United States, especially because we have some career politicians who only benefit themselves. And by the way, if you look around the world, you can see some of them there too. There are some jobs that we might think are not as important as others, but they are. As long as the job you're doing is benefiting someone, and you can tell if it's benefiting someone, really, is it helping someone else to be able to eat? Is it keeping them from starving? Doesn't matter if you're making the plastic that wraps the food. Doesn't matter if you're picking the food. Doesn't matter if you're transporting it. It doesn't matter if you're the one stocking the shelves in the market. Doesn't matter if you're one baking it and selling it on the street. However you are, whatever your skill set is, that is what your importance level is. Helping maintain humanity. There's a lot of people out here in the world today who think they have to go to work for somebody else and they have to be, all this great and whatever. That some jobs are more important. Now, some jobs do pay more than others. But here's a secret. If you look around and you see a need and you are able to fill that need, and I'm not talking about giving somebody $1, okay? I'm talking about being able to do something time after time after day to fill a need that helps someone else. They're going to pay you for it. That's called in English being an entrepreneur. Right? There's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and simply working, or as someone said the other day, there's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and just owning your own business. Because if you own your own business, you're so busy running your business, a lot of times you don't have time to grow that business. You can look around and see what needs to be done in your surrounding community and fill that void. We were talking to a young lady the other day who is basically starting out as a catering thing, right? And what she really wants is she wants a takeout only type of restaurant where she's producing a specialized type of ethnic food at the moment. I'm sure once she really gets going with this, she'll grow because she's smart. She's going to watch what her customers want, and she's going to be able to fill that niche. She's going to be able to feed, literally, her customers, who in turn pay her for her service. She's working on the best of both worlds. I see other people who are out here doing things. Some of them you look at and you go, well, I wouldn't do that. But guess what? A lot of people do pay for those services. Personally, I really don't need to watch a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game. But there are a lot of people who generate a lot of funds through that. And even, this is going to sound funny, but even a football player who really doesn't do much more than train and study and learn how to be better at what they do, they're part of the same system, because as you sit and watch those things, or as you go to the game, as you might just watch them on TV, you might just listen to them on the radio, but when you're doing that, you're probably consuming something to eat or drink along with that, right? The end part of you consuming that, you might think that you're the one who is responsible for giving all these other people their job. But without all of these other people, you don't get to eat it or drink it. For a lot of Americans, let me put it this way. If it's not for the farmer growing the hops, you don't get to drink the beer to watch the game. Okay? Is that about as blunt as I can get?
Yes.
Okay. You are as dependent on them as they are on you for purchasing the final product. That interdependence has never been more critical than it is today. It's never been more fragile than it is today either. All over the world, people have been, I don't want to use the word shanghaied, scared is a better word. They've been terrified into staying home, not going to work, not fulfilling their part of their importance. There are places where it's against the law. You can't go to work right now. What is going on has created this very, very fragile time in society. And we need to be very, very careful about how we work our way out of it, literally. Because it's going to take everybody doing what they can where they are. Because each and every person is an integral part of putting all of these things back together and maintaining not just, our nation, not just that nation over there or that nation over there. They're not even really, you can't really separate the cultures out right now because everybody is so interconnected. if you like to eat, and I think most of us do, maybe it's time we start not worrying so much about how scared we are and start thinking a little bit more about what we need to do to literally work our way out of the mess that we have allowed to be created. If you need some help with that, of course, you can go to Give God 90 and you can learn how to live the way you're designed to live. You can learn how to do the things that will benefit not just yourself, but the people around you as well. And we appreciate each and every one of you when you do that. By the way, don't forget, if you liked these podcasts, hit the like buttons, hit the share buttons, hit the notification buttons. Give us that 5 or 10 or 15 star rating, whatever it might be, wherever you listen. So hopefully it won't be much longer and we can get back to working not in the way the world used to work, but in a way that will make it more productive, more stable, less fragile. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Everybody keep those with COVID that you know and those that you don't know in your prayers. Lift them up and have a good week, and see you on Thursday night.
Absolutely. Until then, many, many blessings, everyone.